Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zheng here, and today I wanted to react to a really cool video that came out recently about my entire Pokemon career. It is a documentary style video created by Giovanni Costa, who is a VGC player and also a video editor, and it's currently hosted on Wolfie's YouTube channel. So I've linked the original video down in the description below. Of course, since I'll be reacting to this and commentating over it, this one will be a lot longer than the original one, so please go check out the original video. It really does help support Gio and Wolfie as well, and I'm so grateful for them for making this happen. I will give a quick intro and some background to this video, but if you want to just check out the actual content, I'll timestamp everything in the description below as well if you want to just skip to certain portions. So first of all, the way this video came to be is that Gio has always been a very talented video editor and storyteller. He's actually put together a couple of these documentary style videos way back in the past, a couple of years ago, but back then there wasn't a very good place to host the videos on, and there wasn't as much interest in the general competitive Pokemon scene either. So, as a result, you didn't have super good viewership, and Gio obviously puts in a ton of effort into making all of his content. So, fast forward a couple of years, and now in 2022, Wolfie and Gio actually talked, and Wolfie was like, well, I have a pretty large viewership base that not only skews towards competitive fans, but also casual fans, so why don't you make these videos and put them on my channel? And so, it really, I think, just was perfect timing, right time at the right place, and I think, Gio had told me this was a video idea that he had in his head for like 3+ years, and I'm just so amazed by it because I didn't give him any creative direction in this video. Basically, he had a very concise, clear-cut plan for what he wanted to do and just executed it so well as well. Like it's truly amazing. And he had a couple people help him, so huge thank you to Chase and Trevor as well. But Gio did almost entirely like all of the editing and all of the mixing as well. And so I'm so grateful to him, to everyone involved in this project, and the fact that Gio really took this from beginning to end. And this is something when I first watched it, I was like, man, it feels like a team of 10 or 15 worked on it, but it was just Gio and a couple of his friends helping him out, and it's just truly something amazing. So if you could go give Gio a follow on Twitter, go tweet some words of support to him, because he put so much effort into this. It would really mean a lot to me, and none of this would be possible without Gio, Wolfie, and everyone else involved. So huge thank you to them, and yeah, I hope this is something you enjoy. I don't really normally do react videos because I just am don't feel super comfortable doing them, honestly, but this is something that just means so much to me, and I feel like I can add a lot of insight since we had 4 hours of interview footage, and obviously a lot of that gets cut down to this video. So I do hope you enjoy, and thank you so much for watching. These first two shots alone give me so much nostalgia. I often get homesick. So I gotta give some context to this video before we get started. So when I was a senior in high school, I gave a speech to my entire high school about my experiences through Pokemon, and kind of relating it to the lessons that I learned from competitive Pokemon and how it applies to things outside of Pokemon, the struggles I'd gone through in high school, and then also just the idea of finding joy through your passions, or whatever you do enjoy. And so the way this worked is, it takes place senior year in the spring semester right before we graduate. A couple of seniors are selected to give one per week, and you have to go through an application process to even get selected. And so very fortunately, mine was selected. And so you go through, a multi-week period where you're drafting it, you're working with your advisors, and then it's the big day. So I was definitely really nervous at the moment. And it's funny because at this point, I'd already competed in front of a big stage, made videos for people that had watched, but it's completely different when you're in front of, 400 to 500 people just watching you. And so it was definitely really nerve-wracking, but I was excited. I think having this was such a just pivotal moment for me and my high school life, and your best friends get to join you on stage as well, and so to have them together with you is just so meaningful. So that's the context here for this speech. It's actually on YouTube, so I'll link it down in the description below if you want to watch it, and maybe one day I'll react to it as well. It's been a very long time since I've seen it.
2 summers ago, my 10-year-old brother, Brendan, and I flew to another country to play a video game. Ridiculous, I know.
So the context here is, back then, gaming and esports and competitive Pokemon, none of them were as popular as they are today, and definitely not as, accepted by mainstream, I feel like, where nowadays it's definitely a lot easier to explain to people. And so back then in high school, I don't even think most people knew the idea of competitive gaming or esports as an industry or field at all, right? And so that's kind of the setting the scene, especially for the teachers who are listening who maybe had no context whatsoever, and it's just a completely different world for them.
Many of you may be familiar with the video game Pokemon, but
Also, my hair was so long back then. Like, my hair's pretty long now, but my haircuts used to always go all the way down.
Pokemon game, I thought this would just be something I would do with friends, and that's basically it. Like, never thought it would turn into what it is today. I would say that
these pictures are so cool.
Met some of my best friends in my life through Pokemon, and I think that is something that is super.
I miss Ray Rizzo. That was from 2013. So those Polaroids, none of those were actually Polaroids. Gio basically edited to make it look like they were, and like I cannot express. You pause like any part of the video that's like edited graphically, it's just gorgeous. Like, and like each shot takes so much effort by Gio. So once again, like huge props to him. It's just amazing.
It gave me a passion that I was really excited about. Be able to discover that at an early age, I think was.
For this, Gio just came over to my house and we shot some footage, which was cool. Or my apartment, I should say.
I remember, like, I used to, like, dream about stuff like this when I was a kid. So fast forward all these years later, and it still kind of feels like a dream.
Oh, that intro alone, man. I'm also wearing a different striped shirt, but as you can see, I do love my striped shirts.
My name is Zheng, and I was born in Queens, New York. Growing up, my parents were pretty apprehensive of allowing me to play video games until I was a little bit older, and I did swimming lessons, took piano classes, but I never really enjoyed any of those.
So the context here is that I, was signed up for a bunch of extracurriculars when I was younger: piano, chess, swimming, math classes, and I was pretty bad at most. Math classes I was actually okay at. That was probably my favorite. Like, we used to have like math competitions, but I was never like extraordinary. I was good enough to do well like at maybe a regional level, but certainly not good enough to contend on a national, definitely not a world level. And then everything else, like piano, chess, swimming, I was like just bad at straight up, even after like taking, and drawing as well. So I quickly learned that I did not have too many talents in many of those fields, and that's actually kind of what led me into getting into Pokemon.
At the time, like, all of my other friends were, playing Pokemon, and I just convinced my parents to buy me a Game Boy. And so My first Pokemon game was actually my very first video game ever. It was Pokemon Emerald, and I got really, really hooked onto it like very quickly.
Man, the context for this is, back then, I think me and a lot of my peers, I grew up in a predominantly kind of like immigrant neighborhood and went to a school with a lot of kids whose parents had immigrated over into the United States. And so it's really cool. I mean, I love growing up in New York, and it's really a melting pot of cultures. But I think a lot of our parents were a little bit more apprehensive of video games, and certainly like any games with any violence like whatsoever. And so naturally, a lot of us actually defaulted towards Pokemon, and I was a little bit late to the curve. But at that point, a lot of my friends in 4th grade already had a Pokemon game, and so that's basically what led me to convincing my parents.
2006, I went to the Journey Across America tour. It was an event where, it was like a celebration.
Hulk Hogan. Oh.
Back then, they were offering like super rare Pokemon that they would trade via like the link cable. Two of my friends were in line, and I wasn't very interested in getting the rare Pokemon, so I went on my own to like explore and check out the other events.
I gotta say, by the way, the fact Gio found this footage from '06 is crazy. Like, this wasn't my footage, and the event I went to specifically was in Long Island in New York City, not the main one in Bryant Park. And I actually remember that because I really wanted to go to like the grand finals in Bryant Park. And I asked my mom, I think it was on a Sunday, and she was like, sorry, like, I'm busy, we can't take you. And so I was really bummed out that day. But I was lucky enough to go to like the regional event in Long Island at Roosevelt Field Mall before that.
And they had this area where they taught like people how to play the trading card game. Well, I learned how to play there at that event, thought it was really cool. Went to a trading card game tournament like a year after that.
This is like one of the oldest photos that exists of me from the old, not even VGC days. This was
cool. Went to a trading.
This was U.S. Nationals 2008, Columbus, Ohio. And man, what a throwback.
Card game tournament like a year after that, and then realized competitive Pokemon was the thing, and then it really just took off from there.
Oh, this really brings me back to the old days of VGC. It was a completely different era back then.
Events in the old days were like the Wild Wild West. There were no chairs, there were best of one single elimination events, and they would draw in really sizable audiences. And back then there were only so many slots available, so you had to get through a lottery system while you were there in person during the day of the event to actually compete.
So This footage is also not from me, but I like distinctly remember. So in 2009, my brother and I went to the regionals in like the Philadelphia area, and we were both in the juniors division. So I was like, okay, surely one of us will get into it. I gave Brendan a team where it was literally like you press one attack, like it's all choice users. You know, it's like there's literally no other thing to do other than click like discharge, earthquake, blizzard, etc. And somehow neither of us got selected, and that was probably the most angry I'd ever been, like from a non game related event. Like I was just so upset. So I'm glad that now everyone can play, because back then you literally had to make it through a random lottery to even make it in.
So I went to this video game event just because I thought it was interesting, didn't really think very much of it. And I somehow managed to string a bunch of wins together and ended up finishing.
So these photos are actually from a different event. This was from my first regionals in like the older division. Back then it was just juniors and seniors, but seniors was basically like 12 and over. And so this was me, 12 years old, 2010 regionals in the semifinals of that tournament. That was still one of the largest tournaments in VGC history. There were 768 players. They reached capacity, single elimination, and I had actually made it to the top 4 somehow. And it was really funny because I remember like IGN used to publish like the articles of how everyone performed and their ages for the top 4. And it was like 21, 21, 21, 12. And so they were like, is that right? Like, shouldn't that be 21 as well? But yeah, I was really young and easily the youngest in that age group.
The final 4 of that tournament. And they're like, oh, okay, well, we'll fly you out to Orlando, Florida for Worlds. You can go there for like 5 days and 4 nights and bring a parent as well.
Man.
We went down to Orlando, and I got knocked out in the first round. That was it.
So back then, the way it worked was, in 2008, I had actually qualified for the Trading Card Game World Championships as well through US Nationals and just performing well throughout the year. And so I was actually going to play the Trading Card Game tournament, but then the Video Game Showdown happened. This was basically 2 regional events, one in New York and one, I think, in the Florida area. And so basically it was like 2 regional qualifiers. If you got top 8 there, you made it to Worlds. Worlds was a single elimination bracket basically. And yeah, so I wanted to play the trading card game at Worlds because I liked it more than the video game at that point. But I asked them and they were like, well, you got a travel award for the video game, but you can't use it for the trading card game. So I was like, dang, like, I can't really justify making my parents spend like, upwards to thousands of dollars to take me to Orlando, Florida for Worlds, and I'd rather just take the free trip. And so I ended up basically using the free trip, and I had to play in the video game tournament as a result. And so it was the worst possible outcome. As in, like, I show up, I get literally eliminated, and that was it. But it was a very eye-opening experience, and I still have questions about how I would have performed if I played in the TCG tournament that year, but we'll never know.
The game ended in 4 turns, and I was like, well, I flew out here to lose in 10 minutes, and I was so sad.
It was literally like a fever dream. Like, I blinked, and then it was over, and I was like, okay, well, I guess that's it. Brendan was so cute as a kid, man.
In 2009, I got my brother into competitive Pokemon. Going to events together was really nice. We would talk about strategy, or just talk about team compositions, and then actually competing in these tournaments. We ended up making a lot of the same friends who we still are friends with to this day. And so having Pokemon was really bonding and like uniting experience. In 2011, Wolfie and I and my brother all won the regional championships.
How crazy is this? Like, the very first tournament that me, my brother, and Wolfie ever won was the exact same regional championship in Virginia, all in our respective age divisions. And once again, to reiterate, back then it was single elimination, and so basically all 3 of us went undefeated to win the entire tournament. I just think that's also so mind-blowing. And also, Wolfie has had such a crazy glow-up. Like,
in Virginia, winning that first regionals really started that hunger to like compete at a high level and continue to try to do better and keep winning.
Oh,
the
so
fact
much
my
nostalgia.
parents were so supportive of it from when I was young really means a lot.
In 2008, I was ready to go to my first US national tournament, and my flight got canceled. I was just absolutely devastated. My dad just saw how disappointed I was, and he said, you know what? I'm gonna drive you to Columbus, Ohio. And we ended up actually making it there just 15 minutes before the tournament started. And so the fact that he did that, I mean, I can't really express in words like how much it means to me.
I might do like a more fleshed out video about this story one day, but this was truly like maybe the most impactful moment I've ever had in my life. It is genuinely still mind-blowing to think about, and I think I'm incredibly privileged and lucky to have parents that were so supportive, especially considering, we were kind of first-gen immigrants coming to the United States, or my parents were, and so to have their support, especially as like a 10-year-old who's playing video games while going to like a competitive elementary school is really rare. It is really, really rare. And so like I think most parents would have been pretty apprehensive, especially like playing as much as I did already, just not even going to tournaments, but then even taking me to events. That in itself like was a lot. And I mean, this trip was wild. Like my dad is such a hard worker. He, is a kind of self-made businessman. He's really passionate about photography, really loves creating all things photo-related, digital-related. And, like he really built out a life for himself and our family here in the U.S. by himself. He didn't, came to the U.S. not really knowing any English, not really knowing what to do, and found his passion for photography. And so, I mean, my parents are really both my heroes. And the fact my dad, like, did that is still so crazy, right? Like, he had been exhausted, like, it's easy to say, okay, you know what, it's okay, we'll just go next time. But he really saw how much it meant to me. I mean, I was devastated, right? Like as a kid, it was literally the thing I'd been looking forward to the most. And so, yeah, it's a story that really deserves its own video one day, but it's one that's really special. And the fact that we made it 15 minutes before registration opened is like picture perfect, honestly. It's so crazy. Or registration closed.
Growing up, we were definitely not exactly like a very wealthy family, and so we actually never really took family vacations at all.
So to expand on that, like I mentioned, my parents are immigrants, and so I think have taken one family vacation or two family vacations total outside of Pokemon, basically ever. And most of the money that we had saved up, they would spend for my brother and I's like college funds growing up. But yeah, we definitely didn't really take many family vacations, and so that's why I was grateful for Pokemon.
And so I was really grateful that Brendan and I could like take them to some places that I think they'd probably be interested in seeing, but just like normally couldn't justify spending money to go to. And most of our quote-unquote family vacations were basically from Pokemon.
Brendan looks so unhappy there.
Travel worth, and so both my mom and dad could come.
I think those were almost all from 2011, 2012.
Would have been supportive of it because they saw that it was like something that was really important to us and really means a lot, especially because if they were like no Pokemon, no video games, I think my life would have gone down a completely different trajectory.
Like I honestly think about that. Like if I didn't discover Pokemon, I have no idea where I would have ended up, because like Pokemon allowed like discovering something I was passionate about and good at so early on in my life, like just made things a lot easier, honestly. And just generally increased my overall happiness in life as well. And so it is so lucky that I discovered that as early as I did and that my parents were supportive. That was such a cool tournament, man. Like I can't believe
I'm the two-time
we all
nationals
won.
champion for the US. I won nationals again to get here.
All right. So you are the man with the target.
That's so
Target on the back.
In 2012, I ended up getting top 8 at the World Championships in the seniors division. I had won regionals, I had won nationals. The only thing left was basically.
How crazy is that, by the way? So the first regionals, me, Wolfie, and Brendan go to, we all win. U.S. Nationals 2011, me and Wolfie win in our respective age groups. The next year, me and Wolfie win in our age groups again. Like, we were connected, basically. It was actually wild. And in 2012, for that Nationals, Wolf and I actually worked together a lot, just practicing and talking about ideas and stuff. So it's a fun throwback.
Like win worlds. I know that's a really difficult task, but going into Masters in 2013, I felt really, really confident in my abilities that year. Back then, you had to be top 12 in the US in championship points to qualify into Worlds.
Yep,
and
it was really hard.
I competed in Masters was like Philadelphia Regionals in 2013, and I ended up making it all the way to the finals in that tournament. I ended up losing 1-2, I believe, but I felt like definitely could have been good enough to win the event. And then I ended up winning this Regionals in Massachusetts. That was like a really, really meaningful victory for me. I played a lot of good players at that event as well, so I think that instilled a lot of confidence in me.
That tournament, by the way, in Massachusetts, I ended up playing Ben Rothman in the finals, and he was like the guy that I had played so much, both online and in person, throughout 2012 and 2013. He was really a legend, and so that tournament was crazy. We played at Gillette Stadium, which is where the New England Patriots played, like a football stadium, and it was like at the top of the venue, and the tournament went on for a really long time. Ben and I didn't start the finals until about 10 or 11, and literally there was no one else in the venue but me, him, and the judge. And I was exhausted, but I really, really was hungry for the win, and I managed to win. So that was my first regionals win in the Masters division, and it was really exciting because I think I went undefeated in that tournament as well, if I remember correctly. And so, yeah, it was really, really good confidence booster.
And then I ended up getting top 16 at US Nationals that year, and my top 16 set was definitely one in which like I misplayed, but also probably like one of the unluckiest sets I've had that year.
The context for this set, I got crit 3 times in 4 turns after
like
intimidating a lot of physical attackers.
I actually knew the exact team my opponent had in top 16. It was the exact team I'd given Brendan to play in that event with.
I also did get pretty lucky, though, I believe, in like game 2 of
But I did
this,
pretty
so
well.
it's
So I
back
think
and
I had a
forth.
lot of motivation
It wasn't
going
just
to the world.
me getting unlucky. Oh boy. Here we go. Here we go. I gotta say, by the way, like the footage of all the players they've shown are all like VGC legends. Like Inosh here, Gavin, Ray Rizzo, Sejun, Wolfie, like, oh my gosh. Ryosuke there, Arash. Just all legends of the game.
The circuit back then was pretty wild because there wasn't a day 1, day 2. It was just kind of a one-day event all the way until finals. 6 Swiss rounds total, and top 8 made it through. And I actually lost round 2, and that just made the climb so much more difficult, right? Because
the person I lost to in round 2, by the way, was Ben Gould, who actually also made it to the semifinals of that tournament and had a really legendary run.
when you lose round 2, you basically have to win out at that point. But I managed to string together 4 wins in a row.
This was, I think, round 4, where I had gone up against a player from Spain, and he was running like a Parish Trap team. And I remember there was, I think, one ending, maybe it was till the final game, where basically he had set up Parish Song, and like I didn't actually need to Trick Room to win the game, because basically like the way it worked is I had one Pokemon that was slower and one Pokemon that was faster, and his Pokemon was between our speeds, and so no matter whether or not Trick Room was up or not, they would faint. You know, I would always have one faint first, his faint, and then mine would faint last, and so I'd win off that. But I set up Trick Room at the end of the game because I thought I actually needed it, and it was really hype, and the adrenaline was just really pumping at the moment.
The adrenaline that you get from winning
As
these
I just said, the
matches felt
adrenaline.
so amazing, especially because you're competing against the best in the world. Top 8 of Worlds 2013 was like a really, really close 3-game set, and before I had gone up for my top...
That top 8 set, by the way, the player I ran into is an Italian player, and he was actually using a very similar composition to the same team I'd used throughout all of like 2012, 2013. It's like Cresselia, Thundurus, Hitmontop, Scizor, Tyranitar, Garchomp, but he had Landorus over Hitmontop, I believe. And so I felt like I should like know everything about his team going into it, but it still was really, really difficult, to be honest.
4 set, Brendan had actually made it to the finals in juniors. I was just so happy from that moment. Like, I didn't realize just how close I was to making it to the finals of Worlds and maybe even being world champion.
So yeah, Brandon and I were playing the semifinals, or like we had finished top 8 basically around the same time, and he had actually already finished the semifinals because we were waiting to stream my game. And so I went over, saw that he had won already, and so obviously I was super excited, and you know, he was super emotional, like he was literally crying from winning. And so at that point, you know, I was obviously really happy, so much adrenaline, so much excitement built up from the day. But I think at the time I just didn't realize just how important this next set would be in my career.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the 2013 Pokemon video game.
Oh my god, it's old
World
evidence, Scott. I
Championships
love it.
as
Or
we
young
are headed
evidence,
into
Scott.
our first game, Ryosuke Kosuge from Japan up against Aaron Zheng from the United States of America.
The way this is edited is so cool, especially if you haven't seen the games before.
In one, I felt like I had a really good early advantage and that it would be really difficult for him to come back, but I remember the ending of that game because there was a scenario where like his out was to like get a double protect off with Heatran.
Getting the protects a little bit better.
And we do get another protect.
So I actually didn't think like him getting the double really mattered because I had Chesto rest Cresselia, and I just didn't think he'd ever do enough damage with both of his Pokemon. But I think up until this point I'd been like, I kept attacking into obvious protects or whatnot. So his out was like to go for a double protect and then Psychic to KO Conkeldurr. And I was like, well, I think Cress wins anyway, so I might as well just target Cress and I get style points if he actually goes for the double protect. And even if he doesn't, like I'm still fine. And then he went for it. And you can see his excitement in the cam, which I think is really funny.
Ryosuke's Heatran.
And then you can see my excitement.
Comes out from Conkeldurr onto the Cresselia.
You really build off the
Not
energy
taking
of the
bait
crowd,
there.
man, during
That
some
was
of these
super hype.
games.
I remember I was like, you know, like hyping up the crowd, but I generally felt good about my game state there.
Ryosuke sends out his double genies, the classic that
This is crazy. Like looking at this lead, I would feel so good about my position, right? Like it's very favorable for this duo here.
he used to take game 2 from Seijin Park.
I think the adjustment was the right one on his end to make, right? And I think, you know, with Swagger and Thunderwave being a lot stronger back then, unfortunately there wasn't like a definitive counter.
Uh-oh.
And here's
I love
where
Scott's
things get
uh-oh.
dicey for Aaron. The Swagger coming out onto Cresselia now that it's both paralyzed and confused, its chances of attacking are drastically reduced now.
Frustrating for sure.
I should move my cam so you can
in those
see me a
situations,
little
what I
bit better
remind
in
myself
these.
is, hey, like, I win the majority of the time if this doesn't happen. So if I just keep playing my game, then odds are that I should win, right?
But it is going to try for another Will-O-Wisp. Will it hit? No, of course not. Of course,
Part of what I was doing in this game was I wasn't playing super optimally. I will review my top 4 set one day for sure. I haven't fully watched over it actually since I've lost, just because it's obviously not ideal. But I was going for a lot of Will-O-Wisps rather than Hydro Pumps, because back then, you know, you'd get more residual damage from burn, and so I was like, well, even if I catch a Cresselia switching in, burning it is really valuable because it just puts them on a timer. But there were a lot of opportunities where I could have gone for Hydro Pump to like just finish off something rather than going for Will-O-Wisp, but I figured as okay, 5% trade-off in accuracy, but it punishes any switch in, and the burn residual is just so valuable for me.
Rotom is not going to hit with that Will-O-Wisp, as the confused and paralyzed Cresselia is unable to make a move either.
Now, frustrating turn for Aaron there.
Frustrating game.
Weirdly enough, I wasn't super tilted even after the game was over, because once again, it was just excitement from being there. But now I look back and I'm like, if I were to happen to me again, I would be so upset.
That's true.
If I'm Aaron, I'm thinking, I've got to find a better way to control Thundurus. I can't let him paralyze all of my important Pokemon. I can't let him just swagger my special attackers. Like,
going into team preview in game 3, I was literally hovering between Landorus and Tyranitar. Like, I was literally going back and forth, and in the end I ended up going with Landorus.
And
So like the explanation there is like, I think I was just a little bit nervous about bringing Tyranitar because like of Conkeldurr specifically on his end, which he had revealed, you know, already having brought previously. So in my head I was like, well, Landorus is a little bit more consistent. I've got the Focus Sash, so I can always get one attack off. That's kind of ironic given how things ended up with. But yeah, like I think Tyranitar was a clear adjustment I could have made there. And I literally was debating back and forth until the very last second. And yeah.
Confusion coming out for Rotom. And the paralysis, will it be able to get its off? Yes!
This turn was so crazy. Like, I honestly thought I had won the set after this goes off.
And it hits onto that Heatran.
So it's truly a shame I didn't afterwards. I messed up, honestly.
It finally makes up for all 5 of those Will-O-Wisp miss.
The fact that survive with 1 is hilarious, too.
Onto that Heatran uses Eruption.
The odds of that are actually pretty slim, right? So I had situations where I got a little lucky as well.
Another attack off, confused, paralyzed, gets the Hydro Pump off, and it connects!
At that point, his team was relatively low HP, so I thought the combination for Cresselia and Conkeldurr under Trick Room could sweep. And that turn, I believe I went for Rock Slide with the Landorus and then Trick Room with Cresselia. Felt like
yeah, I'll just let it play out. I'll give my commentary after.
And Swagger comes out from Thundurus. Is going to swagger.
Look at my reaction in the face cam. Like, you can tell I was like, oh shoot.
Fire here. I was like, oh my god, I did not even consider this as a possibility. But I probably just win the game right there if Rock Slide connects.
No! It hits itself in its confusion!
So, one thing about this sequence is that back then, there often was a lag on one side. So one player would actually see what happens before the other. So I knew things had gone wrong because Ryosuke started celebrating before the Landorus had actually hit itself in confusion. And in my head, basically on this turn, I always thought for some reason he would just swagger the Cresselia Ice Beam Landorus. And that's why I was like, okay, I just have the game won, right? Because if you go for that play, well, like, there's no way you can actually win. I'll get the Rock Slide off, you'll bring me down to Sash, and then your Cresselia is ticking down as well. And so, yeah, I didn't think that he would end up going for the double up onto Landorus, which is absolutely the right play. So it's like looking back, you know, there I could probably consider protecting Landorus or switching it out in a Conkeldurr, which I had in the back. And he found the one way to win. And, you know, it's like 45% chance to win outright. You take those odds given how bad the early game went for him.
And it deals 61 damage to itself and also breaks its Focus Sash as Cresselia's Ice Beam is going to be able to get the knockout onto Landorus.
This is why every turn in Pokemon
really
matters, right?
Break for Aaron there.
I didn't really think about the possibility that it would just be completely lost in one turn, but it went from what felt like a near guaranteed win to a near guaranteed loss, basically.
And the paralysis just going to be gravy there for Ryosuke as
I think that one really stings because yes, I did get pretty unlucky, but I didn't do a very good job like knocking out Thundurus, and I think I generally let it stay on the field for longer than I really should have. obviously I'm very grateful to have, had that good run, but now I look back and of course I can be like, that was like the best chance I had at winning Worlds, and I just felt like short.
It's like back then I was so happy to just have made it there, and in my head I was like, if I made it to the semifinals of Worlds in my first year in the Masters division, I should be good enough to make it back there again, right? But competitive Pokemon just gets harder and harder, and to be consistent on the world level is really difficult. Like I was always pretty good at regionals, nationals, but Worlds, like making a deep run, I never really did after 2013. And so yeah, it's like you can't take anything for granted. You got to make the most out of the moment. And at the time, like I wasn't even that sad about losing because I was so happy, like I performed above my expectations. But when you're that close to winning Worlds, and it's a dream that you've wanted for so long, now it's like it's almost been 10 years since then, and I've never really gotten a shot to make it that far again. There always will be more Worlds, but of course now I look back and think of it as maybe a missed opportunity, but there's no point in having regret, right? So it's just learning from your experiences, letting it build you into a better, stronger person.
He can find a way to knock out Scissor, who's burned.
This was hype though.
Slowly his health is going down. He will become the world champion. Has been working at this for years. 2 top 4 finishes in the last 2 years. This could finally be his year.
The X-Scizor comes out onto Scizor. It's going to deal not enough damage for the KO, but the burn damage will be enough, and Scizor is going to fade, and Brendan Zheng,
man, what a legendary
will
set.
defeat Fuko Nakamichi and become our 2013 world champion in the junior division. Congratulations, Brendan.
Seeing my brother win, I was truly just so genuinely happy, especially because Brendan had even gotten closer to winning.
These pictures are so high quality,
and
man.
It was
so glad my dad saved some of these.
Division. He was playing at such a phenomenal level that event, and overall he played incredibly in that finals as well.
I think that clip, by the way, was he had gotten frozen, but then he had Lumberry, and I think he overall, maybe forgot about the fact he had Lumberry at the moment, so he was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm frozen." He was like, "Wait, never mind, we're good."
Incredibly in that finals as well.
I have to ask, what is your record against your brother?
I don't know, I win all the time.
So cute, man.
Spoken like a true champion.
In my eyes, I often saw a lot of his success as I had done something right. I'm just so happy that I could get
so
him
adorable.
Into the game, and
oh my
now
gosh.
he's taking it to a point where he's world champion.
I have to express, by the way, that Worlds was so special because first of all, Brendan, as you heard Scott say, had lost in the semifinals both years. Also, the way this photo got edited, it looks funny in my head, looks all cropped. Just realized. But Brendan had lost in the semifinals twice already at the World Championships, and both times was really heartbreaking. They were really close sets, and it literally was one turn really going wrong, or it actually felt like he had the advantage both times. Kind of like my set against Ryosuke, honestly. And so, yeah, this time around in 2013, he was a game behind in the semifinals, ended up winning, and then obviously won Worlds. But he actually didn't even top 16 US Nationals that year. I gave him a Japanese team that I thought was strong. He went 4-3, didn't even make it to the top 16. So it goes to show how everyone has a bad day, right? Or can have a bad day in Pokemon. But if you have a good day and you're one of the best, it often leads to very, very good results.
Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zheng here, and today I'm bringing you a new series on my YouTube channel.
I love that literally nothing has changed other than me saying it, going through more puberty, saying it with a lower voice, and also not rushing it as much. But man, 2014 was a special time for VGC.
So today's video, or series really, is going to be me battling on the VGC 14 ladder, special rated battles, and just providing live commentary as I go.
After Worlds in 2013, I was like, you know what, I feel like this would be a good time to explore making some content. I got my brother into playing Pokemon, and now he's a world champion, so maybe if I can introduce other people, if they can have that same path one day.
It's been only 2 months, and hitting 10,000 subscribers is really awesome. Reached over 20,000 subscribers earlier today, with 30,000 subscribers this past week.
When I started making videos,
that's a really cool montage to see. I forgot I even needed all of
getting
those.
1,000 views or 1,000 subscribers was mind-blowing.
Well, Sylveon hangs out with 1 HP, can it wake up?
I gotta move my webcam down for this.
I was just so happy that people were watching and happy with content that I was making. Putting yourself out there in the world in general can be difficult, and you never know how people will receive what you're doing. And
it's still so hard, right? Especially with I think the internet growing and just number of people watching gaming content in general. And doing this was really hard because back then I was in high school, right? I literally had never put myself really out there, so I had no idea what the reception would be like. And I think being a YouTuber earlier on in your life definitely helps you deal with criticism and understand how to, you know, take criticism and also improve from it. But when you're 16 or 17, it's still challenging. And yeah, definitely wasn't an easy journey by any means.
So to generally get good reception and good feedback, I think really meant a lot to me. I think that gave me confidence to continue and to make content that I would hope my viewers would enjoy.
Since my brother and I did well enough in 2013, we were automatically invited to next year's World Championships. The sprint, we didn't have to take the qualifying tournaments throughout the season as seriously. The lack of practice and dedication was really showing though. I performed far below standard at the tournaments I did attend. Crazily enough, I was washed up by age 17.
You know, I definitely lost some confidence in my ability to perform, and I couldn't really pinpoint the specific.
I'm glad people laughed at that, by the way, in the audience.
Practice, for example,
I would have been shook if they didn't.
Kind of humbling experience, realizing like you're not always going to perform at the highest level of the game, and so being comfortable with losing was something I needed to like really learn, especially earlier on in my career when I just like hated losing even a single practice game.
Last season felt like a reality check to me.
I have to say, I think, yeah, when I was starting playing Pokemon, like, I would get really heated even after just losing, like, a single game because of, like, bad RNG, right? And I think it takes a lot of growing up to understand that, you know, to not put the blame solely on the game and to look more introspectively. But Pokemon's a game where it's very easy to get frustrated because of bad luck or bad matchups, and you know it's still something I think everyone tries to improve on, and me to this day especially as well. But when I was younger, I was definitely very heated, and you know I would say maybe a little bit too overconfident in my abilities as well. And so I think like snapping out of that mindset while going through this losing streak in 2014 was important for me.
I wasn't performing nearly as well as I used to, and I want to be a bit honest with you guys. When I started making YouTube videos around, you know, February of last year, I didn't know how much time I had competing at this game at the highest level.
I think the main thing that was tough was in 2014. Like I was still in high school, and I like went to a very competitive high school where everyone's focused on college admissions, and I was just there making Pokemon videos like every day. And my grades definitely took a hit from me making videos.
I need to give some perspective here. I think like the statistic is over 40% of my high school grade ends up at a Ivy League university, and everyone basically goes to like a very top tier elite institution. I had a scholarship to go to a private school in New York City, and it's, you know, really some of the best of the best. Like the students I met there not only were the best at the school, but also the best at their respective universities and doing, you know, cool stuff in life now. So it was hyper competitive, and even though I'm a competitive person, you know, have gone through a lot of schooling. I really like studying what I like, so, you know, math and the sciences, but was really bad at things like humanities, for example. English was okay, we had a good English program, but things like history, languages, it was just, I was really weak at it, didn't make much of an effort to improve on either, and that definitely, you know, cost me a bunch.
Competing so much, and I was like asking myself, should I be spending all this time like doing Pokemon stuff when I have like the last 2 years of high school in front of me?
This year, I really had no idea what to expect. I had no idea how well I'd perform. I knew I would try my hardest, but ultimately what came down to it was the encouragement and support that you guys gave me.
I think that year was overall difficult, but then
that's like so cool to look back on, because like VGC just wasn't nearly as big back then, right? That was like 2014-15 era, and so the fact that there were so many people watching and supporting already back then is really cool. And I think that era was one in which, like, you know, it's hard to lose, especially when your expectation is just to win. And so, yeah, if you're an old-time viewer from back then, like, thank you, because it genuinely made my life a lot better.
It gave me the motivation I needed to get to compete well in 2015, and then 15 was also probably like one of the best years I had in terms of performances in my career.
You guys look.
I just wish I did better at Worlds that year. I was 3-1 going into round 5, and then ended up finishing 4-3. And back then, you needed to basically win 6 out of the 7 games to advance on. So I still needed to win 3 more, but at that point there were only like 2 or 3 Americans left that were even in contention of making it to top 8. And so that year was interesting. I used a really unorthodox team with like Chesto, Rest, Sylveon, Gothitelle, Swampert, Blaziken. It was like an anti-meta team to counter a lot of this Kangaskhan teams, but I somehow didn't end up playing any of the Japanese players that were using those teams, so it's a little unfortunate.
Or continue to motivate me to compete at the highest level at these competitions, and you guys are the reason why I want to do well.
In the end, it ended up working out, and I'm very grateful because like Pokemon was actually such a key component to my college application.
So this was actually from my business school application, where I'll be headed in the upcoming fall. But my essay for both business school and for undergrad, they were both about Pokemon and my experiences through it. And actually, which is really crazy, when I was applying to undergrad, like the admissions officer for the school that I went to, Claremont McKenna, was actually visiting like New York City in my high school. And I basically met the admissions officer, one of them. He was actually, I think, the one that ended up reading my application. I met him the day after I won Philadelphia Regionals. That was where Wolfie and I had actually played in the finals, and it was like post-Worlds 2014, I believe. And so, you know, I was like telling this guy, man, I'm like really exhausted. And he was like, oh, why? And I was like, oh, I just went to a Pokemon tournament in Philadelphia, just came back last night and ended up winning it. He was like, oh, that's like really exciting. Like that's the kind of stuff that I think is really exciting for our school. And so I think that helped me get into undergrad. And I'm really grateful for like that, you know, kind of serendipitous encounter, which is really crazy. And then this was wild too. Like when I got into business school, they actually called me. And it was from an unknown number, and I was actually like doing something with Aaron and Wolfie and Justin Karras, I think in one of the videos that Wolfie posted. And I get a call, and they were like, they start the call with "We choose you," and I thought I was getting pranked by one of my friends. And so I was like, "Who is this?" And they're like, "Yeah, you got into business school." And I was like, no way, like, shut up. And they're like, nope, it actually is us. And then, you know, got the letter officially, and there's this really cool note as well. And so, yeah, it's really, really grateful that Pokemon allowed me to, like, explore these other things, you know, outside of the game that I was interested in. And for me, like, pursuing higher education was always really important because of the sacrifices my parents put in for my brother and I. And I think being able to, you know, go to these institutions just means a lot, especially as like the first one to attend, you know, a traditional four-year college from my family, or go to a business school, for example. And so, yeah, I think, you know, a lot of immigrants really value education, but my parents also never really like pushed me or forced me onto any path. They just wanted me to go down the path that I, you know, thought I'd enjoy the most. And it ended up working out really well. So I'm really grateful for that.
And fast forward to 2016.
My outfit in this? A little controversial. No matching colors, but I was like, I kind of want to just throw together a bunch of stuff. I didn't even have like a proper suit set other than, I guess I had like the pants from this set, but I didn't have like a fitted suit back then just because they were really expensive. And so this is something that we picked up from like Nordstrom for like $20 or $30 probably. So definitely very clashy relative to everyone else here on stage. But I mean, this was crazy, right? Like I was with all the legends from Nintendo and from Pokemon, and so this was still such a surreal experience. And with Jaywitz, who I like literally looked up to so much when I was younger and still do, and like meeting him was so cool.
To E3 to be part of their Pokemon segment.
Is Pokemon Go going to be like the main series where there's some Pokemon that are significantly harder and more rare to catch?
It made me feel really proud of like the work I had put in and everything that I had done.
I still can't believe I got invited to that, because it's not like I was even like a super big Pokemon creator. And so the fact they reached out to me was like so surreal. And I'd never been to E3 before either, so it was such a cool experience. And yeah, I mean, this was literally before the summer of Pokemon Go, and so back then, like, you know, people didn't really know what was coming their way. And even after beta testing it, I didn't know just truly the impact it would have literally on the entire world just a couple of weeks after that. So it was wild.
That, like, even though maybe I'm not like the most well-known player or creator or YouTuber or whatever, like they specifically had me on their list to invite.
Thank you to Niantic and Pokemon for having me.
Niantic.
I'm really excited to see the future of it.
I was definitely really nervous on there.
I really think that so much of what I've been able to accomplish is only possible because of everyone that's like supported me.
And for that, I am forever grateful and thankful. So thank you guys. It really means the world to me. And that's basically all I wanted to say.
It's true. I really appreciate you guys. I really do.
Welcome back, Pokemon fans, to the 2016 Pokemon.
It's crazy to think this was like 5+ years ago at this point.
My name is Dweeha, and joining me on the stage is a player that needs no introduction at all, Aaron Cybertron Zheng. Aaron, how does it feel to be here?
It's weird being on the other side, Dewey, but I'm really excited, and we've already seen some pretty great stuff, so I'm looking forward to casting a bunch of games with you.
You get used.
I have to say, I got really lucky when I got into casting in Pokemon, because I literally got to work with like all of these people that were already my good friends and people I looked up to. So Dewey, you know, Ray Rizzo, Scott Glaza, Evan Latt, Jay Blake from TPCI. Like, it was just such an incredible group of people, and it made commentating a lot easier. And nowadays, like, we have, you know, a pretty different set of commentators, and they are all so amazing as well. So it's really interesting to see how much like the scene has evolved. But one thing that made it easier for me was getting to work with all these great people. And so commentating, you know, still is really special to me. And we've had so many new faces join the scene recently, and I think they all do such an incredible job. So it's definitely, I think, an underappreciated skill. And yeah, show your Pokemon commentators some love, because everyone puts in a lot of effort and they really care about the product.
Used to it.
Chris Brown over at Pokemon like actually reached out to me. He was like, hey, we have a spot open for our team. I was like, oh shoot, like this is awesome. And I just knew that like my head wasn't fully in the game. So I figured it would be like the perfect opportunity to try commentating.
Hey guys.
So the context for that year was I had already qualified for Worlds in 2016. I just won the Anaheim Regional Championships, and that gave me enough championship points to make it to Worlds. That year, the bar was a lot lower as well, so I was like, okay, well, I already made it to Worlds, but I'm not going to go for a Day 2 invitation because that would take a lot more effort and time, and I was just, a freshman at college, not freshman, sophomore at college at the time, and just, like, really wanted to, hang out with friends and do college stuff, and so I was like, okay, I'm not really going to play after February, and I was like practicing for US Nationals, trying out a bunch of different things, and I think I was like, actually like Magnezone was one Pokemon I was trying out, and I was like, maybe there's some potential here. It was like Hidden Power Magnezone, but I wasn't like really hard set on competing at US Nationals, and then I got the call from Pokemon, and they were like, well, we need to bring someone on, and I was like, well, I've already qualified for Worlds, and I don't really want to play in US Nationals anyway, so I might as well just get my, my trip covered, and I always wanted to commentate as well, so it was like the perfect opportunity for all of that to come together.
Aaron Weatherman Zheng here, and today...
Speaking of suits, by the way, this was like, controversial one as well, because like I mentioned, I didn't have suits fitted. And Pokemon actually very kindly bought us all one in 2017, but back then I was just digging through whatever I could find in the stores, and so obviously it's not a very tight fit. And this one was like extra sparkly as well.
Today I'm bringing you some top analysis. They're both phenomenal players. I mean,
I laughed there because the whole crowd like reacted to it. You could like really hear it in the venue, and it like made me super happy. I was like shocked so many people reacted to it.
They're regional champions. Why they've been heralded as such great players in the community. It's not like those 2012, 2013 Cresselia that had choice specs, expert belt, life orb occasionally, but
one of the reasons I wanted to get into casting was because I played the game for so long, and I know so many people, I know the stories of the players, and really the history of the scene, and so to be able to convey that, I think in casting is really, really exciting. Being able to work with a lot of like the commentators and friends that I've like respected for so long, I think was super cool as well.
And here's the water spout, Wolfie Glick.
Imagine this, it's your first year commentating official Pokemon tournaments, you commentate the World Championships, you get to commentate the finals, and somehow, your good friend Wolfie Glick is the one competing for the title. How does that all happen, man? You couldn't write it any better.
Is your 2016 Pokemon video game world champion in the Masters Division.
Being able to add value to when people watch like a stream or a match, I think is really fun. I really like to be energetic and hopefully make it a more enjoyable viewing experience for everyone at home.
Welcome fans and trainers from all over Australia and around the world. It's nice to have finally made it to Sydney. Yeah.
The fact that there are these really cool major events in these awesome cities around the world, right? Whether it be Melbourne, Australia, or Sao Paulo, Brazil. These are places that I never would have imagined traveling to, and if you told me when I was a kid, yeah, one day you'll get paid to like commentate video game events around the world, I would tell you that, you're lying, but here we are.
Queen might just...
That's, I think, one of the coolest things about competitive Pokemon, and like the fact that we have international events and that like, a lot of people go to different countries to play in these different tournaments. The international system, by the way, really changed things up because back then it was like just nationals, and yeah, like they expanded to this like international system in 2017, and even though they were essentially like the old national tournaments, people from all around the world would fly more frequently to go to these events. So it's like, yeah, like I never thought I'd be able to go to like Australia or Brazil for a Pokemon event, and these are places that I've always wanted to go to, but it's like I think really tough justifying spending money to go, especially earlier on in life. And so to have had those opportunities from commentating is really, really crazy. And so like I'm really grateful Pokemon's invited me to all of these events to commentate.
Just be the ace that Brendan needs to seal up this game. It's going to be so close, but it all comes down to this one final turn.
I know that I will be doing it for forever, so I'm just really blessed. I feel like let those opportunities.
That's one of my favorite sets I've ever commentated. Is Brendan making it to the top cut at Worlds this first year as a master.
When I picked up my first Pokemon game, I thought this would just be something I would do with friends, and that's basically it. Like, never thought it would turn into what it is today. Traveled to so many different countries and really even continents through Pokemon, and I've met a lot of really great people that have shaped me to who I am today. I would say that I have met some of my best friends in my life through Pokemon, and I've known these people for over a decade.
I guys have seen so many old photos of me and Wolf. It's crazy.
They're still some of my best friends to this day. In terms of the future, really hoping that we can get more people competing. It makes me feel super good when I know that I could be a part of someone's like competitive journey. I could get them into competitive Pokemon, and now they're a regional or national champion. Competitive Pokemon gave me an outlet for competition that I otherwise like wouldn't have had, and it was like such an instrumental part of my childhood and development.
That was from 2010,
yeah,
by
I want
the
as
way.
many people in the world to experience it as possible.
That photo.
Am I actually going to be a world champion? I can't say for sure, but I know what it takes to like get to that level basically, and so I can at least like say I'm going to work towards putting in that effort.
I definitely, when I was asked that question, I was like, man, that's a good one. But I think, you know, you need to be realistic with yourself, right? Like, of course, everyone wants to say, yeah, I'm going to be a world champion one day. But at the end of the day, there's only one person that wins in Masters, right? And there's only one world champion at the end of the year for your division. So it's a goal that you can work towards. It's really, really difficult. It only gets more difficult. And it's something, you know, that I'll always dream about. But at the same time, you know, I won't be like, yeah, I'm going to win. Because I think you just need to be realistic with yourself. But at the same time, it will be something I'll always dream about.
Even if it's not the most realistic goal, it's always one that I'll have in the back of my mind.
Pokemon taught me a lot. It taught me to look at both victory and defeat with an open mind. To laugh a little bit more, even when things don't necessarily
This is so well
go my
edited.
way. It taught me to explore my passions fully and to cherish the friendships that come to life through them.
So well done.
To love what I do and to be proud of it. Pokemon taught me joy. I hope your passions and your friends do the same for you. Thank you.
Okay, no lie, that's a pretty fire conclusion. Like, the way Gio edited it with the speech is so cool. Like, Also, this credit scene, like, Gio did all of this, man. What the heck? It's so good. Shoutouts to Chase. Shoutouts to Trevor. Like, oh my, And thank you to Spencer for the modeling, because the 3D modeling in this is absolutely crazy. Like, look at this conclusion, or like this credit scene, what? Like, actually, this is something I will literally show everyone for the rest of my life. Like, I'm just so honored to be a part of it, honestly. Like, God, Gio is so talented.
Where did the nickname Cybertron came from? When I was younger, I needed to, you know, pick a username, and I had just watched the Transformers movie, and I just thought Cybertron sounded really cool, so that's literally it. And
That's
I
it.
think I initially wanted to start with the username Megatron, but that was already taken on like whatever forum I was signing up for, so Cybertron actually became like the next thing.
That's it. Oh, guys, man, that was just so special. I obviously ended up being a lot longer than the actual video was, but I hope you enjoyed the commentary and some of the insights. I think we had 3+ hours of footage, and so there was so much that didn't make it into this as well, but I think everything Gio included, he included for a reason, and it fits the narrative, fits the video really well, and I'm just once again really grateful for him for putting this together and being able to share my story with all of you. So yeah, I think, you know, I'm once again just like, to see like half your life, you know, over a decade condensed into a 22-minute video is really wild. And so I can't thank Gio and Wolfie enough for the opportunity. I really, really do appreciate it. And as always, I really appreciate you all for being part of this journey. You know, it's weird doing this as like a hobby, as kind of just a gig that I've been having on the side for literally almost, 7-8 years of my life at this point. And it continues to be still such an important part of my life. And once again, it's like Pokemon's influenced me in everything outside of the game as well, right? Like, I don't think I would have gotten the colleges that I got into if I didn't do Pokemon and talk about it. I don't think I would have gotten the jobs that I did or the internships that I did if I didn't have this Pokemon or YouTube experience to talk about. And, you know, there've been a lot of ups, there've been a lot of downs, but ultimately, I'm just really grateful for everything that the game and you guys have given me. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you so much once again to Gio for watching it. Please go tweet him some words of encouragement or support, because it is, I mean, once again, it is just such a gorgeous video, and so I'm really honored to be a part of it. So yeah, I'll catch you all next time. Peace.